What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Create. And today, guys, we're going to be setting up the Flywheel, along with setting up a couple other miscellaneous things like belts and belt observers to allow us to sort through a bunch of items, some of which are going to go through to the Flywheel setup, and some of which are just going to go into storage. Now, if you saw last episode, you would know that we just set up a brand new tree farm. It is located right over here in this new area of the base. And I absolutely love setting this up, but one thing that we did not get into, which is really important, is what we are doing with all the stuff that we actually get in this adjustable crate. All the loot we get from this tree farm needs to go somewhere because A, we eventually are going to overflow and we're not going to have anywhere to put it. If we just leave this adjustable crate here, you can see it's already over 1/4 full pretty much. And we've already run out of bone meal, but if I were to supply more to this, we would run out very quick. And alongside that, we actually want to put this stuff to good use. So some of it's a little bit less useful than others. Obviously, the apples are not as important as the oak logs for today's setup, but we do need to deal with this and we're going to deal with it all at once. And so we'll be doing a lot in today's episode. So we should probably jump into it because the crafting today is not as simple as the other episodes. And you can probably tell why since we have this setup over here. So we have a lot of stuff that we're going to be using today, and it is pretty expensive in terms of brass, so I will say that there is a reason that the Flywheel is a really good source of rotational power, and that is because it's not actually that easy to get. You need to have the mechanical crafters to actually make a bunch of the stuff that you need. I'm pretty sure both components of the Flywheel, that being the Flywheel and the furnace engine, both require mechanical crafting to actually create them. You can see here you need 9 mechanical crafters for this, and you need 21 mechanical crafters for this. But you can also see that both of these are pretty heavily requiring brass to make. And again, that's not something you're going to have in the first hour of playing with this mod. So it does provide you with a significant amount of rotational power. If we look, the actual power shows up not on the Flywheel, but on the furnace engine, which goes over a furnace. If we look, where did it disappear to? Right here. So you can see that it is a large stress capacity, which is really important because most of the stuff that we've worked with until now, we are generating power, has a low stress capacity. And so a lot of times we've had to slow down the rotational speed of it through various means, and that allows it to have a higher stress capacity, but then it's a slower speed. This is actually one of the first ones that we've had that will allow us to have a lot of stress on it while continuing to run at a decent RPM. And you can see it generates between 16 and 32 RPM. Now, something to keep in mind is you can only get the higher RPM if you used a blast furnace instead of a regular one. And because it needs to be running for this to actually generate power, that means that you would need to be smelting ores and stuff, which is not something that we can sustainably do. So we are not going to get the 32 RPM, but we are going to get the 16 RPM and the large stress capacity, which is more than enough for me for some of the future builds that we're going to be doing. So that's enough rambling about that stuff. We are going to grab out all of this. We have the encased fan, magma block, lever setup. We've got random gearboxes that we're going to need for transferring the rotational power in the belt system. We've got some charcoal for setting up a filter. And then the rest of this stuff, I guess we have the furnace. The rest of this stuff, though, we pretty much have for the actual setup itself. These are just some miscellaneous things. And so I'm going to grab all of it out. Hopefully we have enough inventory room. But as you can see, we have a fair bit of transposers. We have a fair bit of hoppers for this setup, a lot of adjustable crates, which we are going to need. And the rest of the stuff is actually used for crafting. So the first thing we are going to craft will be belts. And we should need 3 different mechanical belts for this. So there we go. We're going to have 6 different shafts to go along with those because you need 2 per mechanical belt setup. And then we are going to have, like I said, a bunch of gearboxes for transferring the rotational power from one of these to another, because we're going to be sending them in 3 different directions when we actually run them. So the next thing that we're going to make is the belt observer. Now this one is pretty interesting and it's actually really useful because this is going to allow us to sort through items as they pass through the belts and kick them off at various points into hoppers, which will go to the different setups that we want. So you can say it says it detects items and entities passing by on a mechanical belt in front of it, and you can use a wrench to cycle between its behaviors. So it's got 4 different behaviors. It's got detect mode, which provides a redstone signal while a matching item is in the belt segment. It's got a pulse mode, which emits a pulse when a matching item passes over the center of the belt segment. Eject mode, which we are going to be using today, which ejects matching items off the side. and if the targeted belt or space is occupied, the item will be held in place. And then it's got split mode, which splits a matching item stack and ejects half of it off to the side. So I think the eject mode and the split mode are the most useful, but today we are only going to be using the eject mode, which is simply going to kick items off the belt into the hopper that is next to it. And that allows us to do really easy sorting for this. And it also makes it visually pretty cool because all your items are going to be traveling on the belt. You can see each one of them and you can see them getting kicked off at different points. So it actually does look like a genuine factory setup. So we're going to craft those. They're actually not that difficult to craft. So they require 1 redstone, 1 iron, an observer, and brass casing. So again, though, this still requires a fair bit of brass. Something to keep in mind before you do this, you're going to need a ton of brass casing and brass plates before you can actually do this, or brass sheets, I should say. So just a fair warning. Now, I think that's pretty much all we craft over here, if I'm correct. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that we missed over here, but I think that's pretty much it. Most of the other stuff is actually going to be crafted in the mechanical crafter. So what we can do is grab out all the stuff that we need. We'll start with the furnace engine. I believe we should be able to just use the middle 9 of these to craft it, since they do, we'll have to adjust where they push into each other, I believe. So let's take the wrench, but I think we should be able to, if we have these push into the middle here. So we can try that and we'll see. I guess we can experiment and see if it actually works. I've never done that before. I've only ever used the maximum amount. So we need our brass sheets, we need our copper sheet, we need our brass casing, and we need our brass ingots and piston. If I could find those in here. So we got our brass ingot. We should keep this on the bar, and I swear I have a piston in here somewhere that I could not find for the life of me. Okay, so we got brass sheets, like so. We've got the copper sheet, a brass casing, the ingots there, and the piston there. Now, can we rotate these to push properly into each other, or was I incorrect that we could use all of these? Now, it's possible that we can just adjust this if we need to. I don't think we need like a lever or anything. Okay, so we may need to adjust this, unfortunately. So we can grab all this stuff out since we need an empty hand to do it. There we go. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm actually going to tear this down, the sides of this. We'll tear it down to these middle ones, and that will still function because only one of these actually needs to be hooked up to rotational power, as we know. We already went through this in an episode. But then we'll have to just redirect them towards each other so that they all pop out at one final point. So that should be good. Now we should be able to throw them back in like so. And it should start going, right? It's just super slow. We can up the speed by 1. Yep, there we go. So I guess you need to actually only have the amount required for this. This is a perfect example, though, of a machine that requires a lot of stress capacity, and we had to lower the speed of it because an encased fan was not going, it did not have a high enough stress capacity for this. So something to keep in mind when you have bigger setups, or if you want to hook up a bunch of things to one, is that the speed really isn't the main issue. It's going to be the stress capacity of it. So that is why the flywheel and furnace engine setup is really, really good. But we'll have to pull out now the rest of the mechanical crafters to reset these up once this item pops out the side here. I always love watching it craft this. The only unfortunate thing is when you have to slow down speed like this, it goes really, really slow. So I'll pop that out, and then we'll have to wait for the extremely large scale flywheel, which will take even longer. Okay. It's going to come out. It should come out this side, I think. There we go. Okay, so now we got to pop all these back down. All 21 of them will need to be down for this one. And then we're going to have to rotate all of these back to the proper direction. So we'll go down. What I usually do is just right down the middle. And then we bring the sides in, and then these push into the center. That goes down, and then we have the sides come in here. You can do it any way you want, as long as they all connect, it's fine. Okay, so the outside should be the 12 brass. If I could actually click properly, we'll have to grab this one back out. 12 brass sheets, brass casing in the center. Now the question is, are the brass ingots at the corners or here? I want to say they're not the corners, and I would be correct. And then we have to get our sticks out. This is the one downside of this is I like to do this crafting on camera for you guys because it's larger scale and I think it's interesting, but it also takes a really long time. So what we can do now is make sure that we got everything set up. It looks like we do. I did grab some glass because we are setting this up under the floor. It's going to be one under the floor, and I'm going to put glass over it so that we can still walk around without falling down in there. But at the same time, I want to be able to see it still because it looks absolutely phenomenal. That is the one thing I will say about the belt system is although it might not be as efficient or I guess as easy to set up as pipe systems from other mods, it definitely looks a heck of a lot cooler than just setting up a bunch of Ender IO conduits or something. You get to see the items actually on there, how they're traveling. It even looks realistic when they transfer from one belt to another with how they round the corners and everything like that. It's absolutely awesome. So I'm excited to set it up for you guys today. If you've never seen it before, I think you'll be pretty impressed. But is it raining out again? It was just raining before this episode, and because there's no roof on where we're setting this up, I slept so that it would not be raining when we were actually trying to set stuff up. So hopefully that'll clear up, and this should be finishing up crafting now. And I think I'm just going to leave this setup over here, just because there are going to be things that we need to mechanical craft a lot now. Before it was just the crushing wheels, and so it was okay for me to take it down until we had an area for it. But I think, you know what, it'll make good use of this. It looks kind of cool over there. We did have to dig into the wall a bit. But you know what, it gets the job done. So the flywheel, which looks a little bit weird there with the textures kind of clipping in each other, should pop out, and then we are good to go start setting this up, which is great because we've already killed a ton of time crafting and we got a lot of stuff to do. So we're going to be setting up the flywheel and the furnace engine over on this wall here. But what we need to do is dig under this setup here and sort of map out where we're going to go. Now I want to keep it 2 away from the walls as we go around. So the belts are going to run right along here. And I actually think they're going to stop right here for now. We may use this belt system to even bring the eventual bone meal over here and just have it loop all the way around the room. But for now, it's going to come from right under the adjustable crate. And then we need to dig down one more because the actual belt itself is going to be sitting on this level right here. So we'll dig these out. And there we go. Okay. So, and is this even on this side? I guess we should have somewhere to get out. So right over here. Let's see. Or does it need to go? You know what? It can go one more just so that it's even on both sides. Okay. So now we can start setting up the belt itself starting right here, which means we are going to need to pull out the encased fan, and belts themselves actually transfer rotational power to a different shaft. So we're going to do one encased fan setup right over here, and that'll be enough. So we got the lever, the encased fan, the magma block. The one thing we need to make sure of is that it's rotating the proper way. And actually, if it's not, then we can just move it probably to the other side. It should be fine. So we'll have to see which way this is rotating, but we want the magma block to be right here, the encased fan to be right here. We can drop the lever down right over here, and then we'll see which way it's spinning when we toss down the gearbox right here. Yep, so that's the way we want it to be spinning. These items need to be going this way right here. So if we were to attach a shaft to this right there, and then I do want to fill this in like so. I actually do want to fill this entire area in with cobble in case we see it running along the bottom here, just because I want to make sure that it looks good, and there is the possibility that we see a little bit of this peeking through with the actual belt system, because they don't cover everything. We could do encased belts, but I do actually want to see the items. So we'll dig around here, and we'll dig up the one layer of flooring under this, and then we'll just use cobble to cover all of it up. So it looks, I know cobble itself does not look nice, but it matches the room. So I just want it all to match. I don't want it to be a couple different kinds of blocks here and there, like we actually did not put anything down. So there we go. We have the shaft there. Now the next shaft is going to go right here. And then the shaft after that is going to go right like this and come right over here. And then this shaft is going to go like this and come, if I could place it down, the proper direction. I don't even know. Is it possible to place it down while I'm like jumping up and down on this wall? There we go. Go right there. So all the different belts are going to connect like this, and you'll see what I mean when I say rotational belts connect. So right here, you can see that this shaft, because this belt is spinning from that shaft over there, this belt side over here, this shaft is now spinning. And so that's relevant just because you can actually use belts to transfer rotational power from one area to another if you want to go over long distances. And so what we're going to do is use a bunch of gearboxes, depending on where the rotation ends up, to transfer from this shaft right here to this one over here. And so we should have enough for this whole setup. So if we place this gearbox down, then we'll have to place a gearbox down over here and one right here. Now the question is, if we put a shaft down, and I don't think so. I think when I tested this, we need a gearbox right here for this to go the right way. So what's going to happen now is we come down here, and eventually it kicks us on to this mechanical, or this belt right here, and then it's going to kick us over to this one right here. So again, we can set this up like so, and we're going to have to do the same thing over here where we just dig up this area, and we're going to need to turn one of these gearboxes into the other kind because we're going to need 4 of them. And again, it should require all 4, and it'll now be rotating in the correct direction. So we can cover this up, and boom, we now have a mechanical, I keep calling it a mechanical belt. We have a belt system, or I guess it is a mechanical belt technically. We have a mechanical belt system that carries all the items over here. The problem is now we actually need to kick those items off at proper intervals. I don't want to put the hopper down and start dropping items on here if they're just going to go all the way to the end. Convenient time for a tree to grow. If they're going to go all the way to the end and just sit there. So the first things that we need to do are dealing with the items that I don't want to say that we don't care about as much, but that aren't as important to us. And so we'll deal with those right over, we can do them right here. And so we'll dig down and we'll put down, we might need to separate it by 1, in which case it would need to possibly do one over there and one over here because we need the room. But we're going to take the adjustable crates and we're going to put them down. I want them to form vertically. So I wonder if we form this one vertically, you can attach 2. We can have 2 formed vertically. And I want to dig behind these and again, put down cobble just so that it looks nice, like that. Okay, so there we go. We have 2 adjustable crates, and now we can come down here and deal with kicking the items into these. So we are going to have a belt observer right here, and you can just give me that cobble back. It goes right on those. But if we pull the belt observers out, we can put down one right there and one right there. I do have to break that block. Apparently, they've disappeared on me. Okay. You know what? I feel like we've dealt with this before. I've been told they're somewhere. There they are. There they are. It happened before. Someone told me in the comments they're just invisible in your inventory. So we're going to put one down there and one down there. See, guys, we fixed it. We're learning. Now, these belt observers, like we talked about, they have 4 different modes, and they start on detect mode. So that provides a redstone signal while a matching item is in the observed belt segment. So the one right in front of it, you can see that they actually have a visual that shows the section of the belt that they go under, and they have a filter that you can put on them for the item they're supposed to detect. So what we want to do is use the wrench, and we want to change to the 3rd mode, which looks like that, an arrow with a line behind it. The 3rd mode, like I said, is the eject mode, which ejects matching items off the side. If the target belt or space is occupied, the item will be held in place. So it's going to kick the items off to these setups right here. And so what we want to do is put hoppers down into each of these. like that. And we can even cover the top of these hoppers like that, and the items should still get properly kicked off. So then we want to put down the redstone torch again so that this tree can get cut down. And then we need to come over, and once the tree is finished getting cut down, we're going to pull one of each item out of the adjustable crate. So we're going to pull out an oak sapling, an apple, a stick, and a piece of oak wood. And for these, we want it to be sticks and apples that go into these. So we're going to filter. What? Apparently it believes that that is cobble, even though it is not. Okay, let's actually try and get me on here. Apparently it's impossible to get off the mechanical belt. Okay. It does not want me to put a stick in here, apparently. Let's see if... Oh, okay, the stick is apparently invisible. I was clicking with nothing. I don't know why that keeps happening, if that's a Minecraft bug or a Create bug or what. But we want to... Let's get rid of the block on top of it this time. So the sticks are going to go in there, and the apples are going to go into this one. So we'll put the items as the filters right there. And now we'll put the redstone torch back down, and we can test this. So if we drop a stick right here, it'll make its way over. And then right when it gets in front of that, it gets kicked off, and boom, it gets put in this adjustable crate. And we are going to just shift scroll to open up all of the storage in these. And the same thing will happen if we toss the apple down. So that should get kicked off and put into this adjustable crate right here, which is great. And then the only thing we really need to do is come over and deal with this setup over here, which is going to be the very same thing, except we are going to do it slightly differently to get it into this chest up here. I'm trying to think of how we would want to do this. I think we can probably still use just an adjustable crate for this, but we're going to be one short. No? Actually, we shouldn't be. Do the hoppers go directly... The hoppers go directly below these blocks, which means the hopper would go right here. So we should still be fine with my previous plan setup, which was... I got a little confused for a second. We're going to do an adjustable crate right here, a single one, then a transposer up from this to this chest right here, and then we need to put down right here, and we're going to have to replant this tree after. I know it's going to try and keep planting. Let's just shift so the belt doesn't affect us. We need to put down our third belt observer right here, and we need to put down the saplings in there. Then we can put back down the dirt and allow this to actually function again, so we don't have to keep listening to that. Put down the sapling there. We can get... Well, I guess that cobble is just going to stay there. There we go. And then we can come down here and clean this up a little bit. Then we just got to put down a hopper and cover it. So, put down the hopper right here into the adjustable crate. Cover that up. And there we go. So now all the saplings, and we can test this, that get dropped on there, should end up in that chest. Oh, does it need to go one at a time? There's a very distinct possibility it needs to go one at a time, which will be fine. Oh, right. We didn't change the mode. I completely forgot. I didn't follow my own rules. So you can see it gave redstone signals, but it did not kick any of these actually off. So that's actually a good example, a good learning moment, that you need to make sure the mode is correct. Otherwise, it's not going to kick them off properly. So we'll let that replant itself, and we will toss these down. Should be able to do multiple at once. There we go. So it kicks them all off into there, and they all should eventually end up, if the transposer is set up correct, in that setup. Yep, so they're all getting kicked off, and they end up in this setup up here. So it seems that they're all working properly. We can actually cover this area up with glass over here now, and it might seem a little weird, but you can still see the items under here, even though this is directly above this. The items themselves end up actually on the belt. They're not just entities floating there. And now we can cover up... Well, we actually can't cover these up yet because it's time to work with the flywheel. I am going to go sleep because it's dark out. But now it's time to set up the furnace engine and flywheel. And this one is relatively easy. The only thing I need to keep an eye on is the space that we're actually working with, because it does take up a significant chunk of space. And I want to make sure everything can be properly set up. So we need to put the belt observer somewhere on this one, but because it's not a totally long string over here, we're most likely going to have to put it right here. I think this is pretty much our only option for where we can put the belt observer, which means we might need to adjust a little bit on the setup I was planning, but we'll put the belt observer right here. We'll make sure we change the mode properly to eject, and we will put an oak log there. Now we can cover that up, and that's good to go. So then we need a hopper right here to actually have it kicked off into, and that hopper is going to connect to adjustable crates, which are right here. So we'll put both of them down right there. We're going to have a stack, again, of 2. We're going to have a hopper connecting right there. Actually, are we going to do 2 or 1? I think we're going to do 1 and then have it go into, we can scroll this down. We don't need to, but we can. And we're going to have it go into a transposer, which is going to bring it up into a double set of adjustable crates right here. So I believe we should be able to cover this up now. This should be sufficient. And this setup right here is going to store pretty much everything that we are going to be using. It's not just going to be the oak, it's going to also be any excess charcoal that we have. So we're probably going to want to set the flywheel up, I would say, over here. It's unfortunate this couldn't be over like 1 more because of the room that we need. So we might have to fiddle with the size of this room once. So what we'll do, we can just start setting this up, is we want to put the furnace right here. Apparently that's a piece of cobblestone. Okay, I don't know what is going on with my inventory right now. It is bugging out super hard, but we're going to put down the furnace right there. And you know what we can actually do? Well, you can set the flywheel any direction that you want. So if I place it down like here, we can put the flywheel out here. If we set it down in a different direction, the flywheel can go there. What you need to keep in mind is the flywheel needs to be 1 block away from the end of the furnace engine itself to actually function, because those 2 blocks end up connecting into their own structure. So if we put it over here, the flywheel would need to be where this piece of oak is right now. So we have the option of putting it in this direction over here. But what we're first going to be doing too is the furnace itself to work needs a hopper on top. And then we're going to use transposers along with that. So a hopper right on top, and then we're going to have a transposer coming this way and a transposer coming this way. And then we need to have, I believe, 1 more hopper, 2 more hoppers. So actually we need to go grab one down here that connect it back to this setup to loop it through. And so the reason being is we need to put the charcoal in, we need to put the oak in at the top, and we also are going to need, we might need more hoppers. I actually think we need to make 1 more hopper. Do we have any excess chests? We do. Whoops. So we need to then pull out the charcoal and cycle it back through our system. So to do that, we're going to come down like so and put 1 there, put 1 there, and put 1 there. And then we can cover this up. And so what should happen is with this setup that we end up putting the charcoal only going in here, because eventually once we have a piece of charcoal, we only want the charcoal to be used as fuel. We don't want the wood itself to be used as fuel, and we want the wood to go in the top there. And so what we can do is if we put in this setup, the log itself, and the charcoal, what should happen is the charcoal goes in, it starts to cook down the oak log. Once the oak log is done, it'll get pulled out, it'll get cycled back through our system, back up into this adjustable crate, where the charcoal will then be put back into the furnace. So this will leave us with a pretty consistently burning furnace, which is going to be what powers the flywheel itself. So now this whole setup is done. We can cover this all with glass right here, and we'll wait because the only other thing that we need is, I guess we need one more hopper, because we are going to use a hopper to drop the items onto here. We don't need to use a transposer for it. We can go with the cheap option, but now it's just determining where we want the flywheel to go, because it's not very visually pleasing to put it over here, which is really the unfortunate part, but I also don't really want to extend it out into the center of the room. Okay, you know what? I guess we're just going to put it over here. We'll tear down this wall. We'll put this here, and off camera, I will move the entirety of this wall back one, just so that we can have it be more visually pleasing, because it bothers me. So we'll put down the furnace engine on the furnace, and then we'll put the flywheel down right here, which you can see connects to this setup and start spinning because this is burning. So now we could get all of the rotational power we need from right over here. You can see it's coming to a halt right now because it stopped cooking. But if we were to throw back in our oak logs over here, it would start right back up again and start going. So it looks absolutely awesome with the moving parts and everything. It's great. It generates a lot of rotational power, and it can take a lot of stress on this, unlike what you probably have up until this point. But unfortunately, that means I'm going to have to redo this area over here. I don't want to force you guys to watch that on camera, though. It's going to require a lot of redoing stuff. But the last step is going to be to make one more hopper. Thankfully, it seems we have excess chests over here still. So we'll grab this out, and we'll craft this into one more hopper. And the minute we put that down, the entirety of our system should sort itself out. Now, it should sort itself out then every single time it finishes chopping down a tree. So we'll put that there, and immediately the items should start coming out. And you can see it looks awesome. You have them going one at a time, going down. You can see what I mean when I say the corner. It doesn't just automatically drop them in the center here. It kind of spins them around the corner. And you can see these are all getting kicked off into this setup over here. They're going to be filling up the top of this furnace, cooking down. And eventually, once we get over through all of these and get to the sticks, we'll be able to see the rest of the system in action too. But I think this just looks absolutely amazing. I couldn't be happier with how this turned out, other than praying that the flywheel did not take up that much area over there. I had enough room, but I made the incorrect assumption that the adjustable crate would be over here, which we could have done if we wanted to use an additional adjustable crate and kind of transposer it again from this one horizontally to another one and then up from that. Which actually may be the solution I do off camera, so I can get a nice screenshot for this. Either way, though, the setup is working. This is how you do it. And you can see eventually the stick should be coming. If we look down here, oh, it's got to go through a lot of these. Let's go to the sticks. Let's adjust it so the sticks come out now. Obviously, also, you won't have as big a backlog. Normally, if it's sorting at every single tree that it finishes, you are not going to have to wait this long for everything to clear out. You're going to have maybe, 7-ish items, 7 to 10 that are going to be each time. So it'll take probably about 15 seconds. But again, it just looks so absolutely amazing. You got the sticks getting kicked out over here. I couldn't be happier, guys. I love the way this room is turning out. And once this area doesn't look like an absolute monstrosity, it's going to be great. But that's going to be it for today, guys. I know it was a rather long episode because there was a lot to cover, but I wanted to do that to say sorry for it being a week since I uploaded. I know we were on a good streak, but then the hurricane came and knocked out my power. And so I did not have the ability to, it wasn't even that I had no internet, I had no power. So I didn't have the ability to record anything. And that was the day that I was planning on going and getting ready to record. And then after that, it was a matter of catching up on a bunch of stuff once the power got kicked back on because I did miss some work for it. So, this is kind of my apology for that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the longer video, and I will try to get back to posting regularly now that hopefully my power will be on like regular for an extended period of time. But again, that's it for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you later.
Standing in a glass bowl at the end of a black hole, cold, lost and upside down. Faces swirling past me, all my memories rolling vastly.